So I'm very much a homebody, almost embarrassingly so, and weekends are when I have the most time to dive into whatever game I'm currently playing through. Up until about 3 weeks ago, that was Clair Obscur, which, yes, I finally beat, but this weekend was no different. It's midnight on Friday night, and I'm working my way through Stellar Blade while my half-started copy of First Berserker Kazan is staring at me from my backlog. And as I was running around Zion, something just clicked. Both of these games have super fun, fluid combat. Both have very attractive protagonists. Both nail that one more try addiction that keeps you glued to your screen, and they're both Korean made. As I realized this, it hit me. When did Korean developers quietly start dropping all these bangers? I started looking into it, and I guess this has just gone completely under my radar, but developers from China and Korea, places that historically haven't made double or AAA titles, have really been knocking it out of the park lately. And obviously, Japan has always had their share of home runs too. But these days, with how expensive games are becoming and with how awful some of our choices are, this really means a lot. We're naturally gravitating towards the games that respect our time and money, and over the past couple years, Eastern developers have been pulling us in like a black hole, and I'm loving it. It's no secret that Elden Ring and the Soulsborne formula have inspired many of these Eastern developers, and how could they not? Elden Ring was a cultural phenomenon, and yes, I've seen gamers claim Souls-like fatigue, but I think that fatigue only happens when the games are bad. So just like what Mr. Gunn said, it's really just bad game fatigue. Here's the thing though, these Eastern developers saw the genuine love and excitement people had for this genre and thought, we can make something players will love too. Most recently, we saw this with Wu Chang Fallen Feathers. Yeah, there were optimization issues at launch, but you can still see that this smaller team was genuinely trying to make something they thought would resonate with players. And since launch, they've apologized, they've released patches, and they've even given away in-game loot. Come on, they're obviously doing their best and working for us. They made this game for us, the players, and they want us to enjoy it and love it. That's the difference. Some developers are genuinely trying to make games with us in mind, and others just aren't. And the crazy thing is that these Eastern developers haven't discovered some secret formula. They're not doing anything new or groundbreaking, they're just getting back to the basics, making games that respect players and want them to have fun. So all of this got me thinking about the state of our industry. What is happening with Western developers, and how are they so far behind their Eastern counterparts? Now, before we get into the whole East versus West thing, let's be real. The gaming industry is getting squeezed from every direction. We've now got credit card companies trying to censor gaming content, games disappearing when servers shut down, hence the Stop Killing Games initiative, rising development costs making everyone risk-averse, live service pressure from investors, the prioritization of modern ideology over good gameplay, and us just paying more than ever for games that we don't actually own. The entire industry is getting hit from all sides. Eastern developers, Western developers, everyone's facing the same stuff one way or another. But how these developers respond is what tells you everything. When faced with the challenges, some developers are doubling down on actually caring about us, the players, because they understand we're the ones who can actually help them succeed, while others have just stopped listening to us entirely. So let's do a little dissecting of what the West has been up to. Now, be warned, it's a little bit depressing, but don't worry, we'll get through it together. And then we'll look at how Eastern developers are truly here to save the day and how not all hope is lost. Going back through gaming history, it's such a bummer because there was a time when Western AAA developers actually worked to make games with us in mind. You could truly feel that they really cared about what we wanted. Remember Assassin's Creed 2? Ubisoft spent years reconstructing Renaissance Italy with historian-level accuracy, all while giving us a beloved protagonist and story that made you care about the world even more. It wasn't just for profit or to push some agenda. The team behind the game clearly had pure love and passion for what they were making, and it was obvious that they wanted the players to enjoy it. BioWare used to obsess over connecting with players. They'd spend months, years perfecting conversation systems in Mass Effect and Dragon Age because they understood that's how we bond with the characters. Thousands of lines of dialogue, branching narratives that actually mattered. It was all because they knew that's what their players would love. And Rockstar, their track record speaks for itself. GTA, Red Dead Redemption, they are making games 100% catering to the player's experience, which is why I'm really hoping GTA 6 doesn't disappoint. But across the board, going back through gaming history, there are so many examples of games that were made by people who wanted to bring players joy. You could feel the love in every mechanic, every system, every decision. Western AAA gaming was in its golden age. So what happened? Well, looking at the state of the industry right now, it's clear that so many studios have replaced respect and passion with greed, contempt, laziness, and just nonsense. They started shipping broken games at full prices that continue to creep up, cramming in microtransactions and live service monetization, expecting us to pay for unfinished products, then buy the rest as DLC. They've let cultural pressure override what we actually want. Now character designs have to go through committees that are terrified of making anyone attractive or appealing. They prioritize poorly executed modern ideologies over actual compelling narratives and characters. Everything they do at this point is for what the modern audience desires, but where are they? Where is this audience and why aren't they buying these games? I mean, just look at the lineup over the last few years. The Concord team allegedly spent well over their $200 million budget just to make both a game and characters that appealed to no one. And then they shut down after 2 weeks. Dragon Age: The Veilguard was in development for 10 years and somehow still launched with insanely awkward and lecture-heavy dialogue in a game where dialogue is everything. The Saints Row reboot, with over a $100 million budget, completely ignored fan concerns and just steamrolled ahead to failure, and ultimately the developer's demise. And don't even get me started on Ubisoft. Star Wars Outlaws only sold 1 million copies in its first month, despite their massive marketing spend, causing their stock to crash to a 10-year low. Then there's Assassin's Creed Shadows and Skull and Bones. Flop after flop with these same awful formulas, costing the company over $178 million in losses for the last year. And their CEO keeps making these tone-deaf comments about it all. He can't be stopped. The list goes on and on. Suicide Squad, Redfall. What's the result of all of this? Mass layoffs across the industry, studios shutting down, and these companies bring all of this upon themselves. They cut corners, push low-effort development, and chase that mythical modern audience instead of truly serving the players who are actually supposed to buy their games. Studios that have been around for decades are getting shut down left and right because they followed these awful formulas, prioritizing monetization over quality, ideology over gameplay. There has been so much money wasted. This is basically the state of Western AAA games. Like I said, depressing. I mean, these are supposed to be some of the best of the best. We're talking millions of dollars here, massive teams, huge historical successes, and somehow so many of their recent titles felt like they were made by people who just didn't care, or at least didn't care nearly enough. And we're at the point now where it's become so easy to recognize that disconnect and the lack of effort. I mean, you can basically tell immediately when you see a new trailer whether or not the game is gonna be a hit or a miss. Yes, still looking at you and that beautiful glistening head. But all of this brings us to good news. When you look at what's been happening in the East, the small teams of developers in China and Korea are fighting to put out double and AAA games while facing these same pressures, and so many of them are succeeding. The passion for what they do is shining through. They're fully focused on respecting their audience and giving us, the players, what we want. Fun fact, Black Myth Wukong's team spent 4 years traveling around China to 3D scan real locations out of pure love and authenticity. You can feel how much they cared about the source material, story, and the characters. I love that little Buddha. And they shared that passion with us at every step. And you know what? It worked. Black Myth Wukong cost around $42 million to make and has sold over 25 million copies. That's what happens when players feel like someone actually cares about them versus trying to force things on them that they don't want. Stellar Blade gave us a beautiful female lead and calculated physics for every single movement, while refusing to compromise on a 60 FPS. The game launched pretty much bug-free too. That's them caring about our experience, and you can feel it in every animation, and the numbers prove it. Stellar Blade hit 3 million copies sold, with 1 million copies on PC in just 3 days when it launched on Steam. I mean, that's a legit accomplishment, right? A pretty protagonist and good gameplay really are an unbeatable combo. Another recent one is Lies of P. They took the Souls-like formula and crafted this haunting, twisted, Pinocchio-like world with such attention to detail and polish that showed genuine love for both the fairy tale and the players who love this genre. The market responded, and Lies of P sold over 3 million copies, hitting 1 million in its first month alone. And this also just gives me a chance to say, Eastern developers across the board are not afraid of making games that look good. Attractive, beautiful characters that aren't trying to check boxes, but are just trying to draw the player in and add to their experience and enjoyment. No intentional nerfing of their looks, no agendas, no ulterior motives, no nonsense. Just good-looking, pretty, attractive characters and designs. And I've said this before, but I don't understand why this is so hard for Western developers. Stop making your characters less attractive on purpose. But getting back on track, are all of these Eastern games perfect? No. I had the occasional frustrations with Black Myth's hitboxes, and I wouldn't say Stellar Blade's story is my absolute favorite, but here's the thing. They are trying. Just like with what I was saying earlier with Wu Chang, they're clearly trying. They're at least putting in the effort, and you can easily see that these developers are working to make something they hope will love. The genuine care still comes through, even if the execution isn't always perfect. Yes, we want to get our money's worth and don't want to buy broken things, but from what I've seen across the internet, we're not expecting perfection, even at the AAA level. If you can see that the developer is valuing and respecting us, we're genuinely pretty forgiving, right? And it's clear that these developers are at least attempting to do that and serve their audience well, even when they don't nail every single thing. The total gap and difference between the approach to development between Eastern and Western devs is just so massive at this point. It's almost like they're going in complete opposite directions of each other. One is obviously right, and the other thinks they're right while blindly charging ahead into the fire. And since we're talking about developers serving their audience, I feel like I can't make this video without at least mentioning that there are still some incredible Western indies who are fighting the good fight. Clair Obscur with Sandfall Interactive pouring love into every story beat, accompanied by great gameplay, sold over 3 million copies, and now they're having meetings with Square Enix. I'm not a card girl, but Balatro was made by one person over 2.5 years and sold over 5 million copies, finding real success with its audience. Animal Well spent 7 years in development to create a highly praised Metroidvania that, during launch month, outsold every first-party Nintendo game on the Switch's eShop. Great job. And another Crab's Treasure, the Souls-like from Aggro Crab, reached 500,000 copies sold in just over 3 months, with the developer saying, "You can't engineer virality, but you can put heart into the game." Heart. That's what we're talking about. Baldur's Gate 3 has sold over 15 million copies. You can feel how much Larian loves this game along with its audience. Hogwarts Legacy sold over 30 million copies because someone finally tried to give us the Harry Potter experience we've always wanted. When you look at these games, you can clearly see a difference versus all the Western flops, right? The AAA disasters with their massive budgets will continue to be completely outperformed by developers who show genuine love, care, and appreciation. The pattern is crystal clear. When developers make games for us, we respond, even when the games aren't perfect. That response sends a clear message that developers who try will be rewarded over developers who couldn't care less. And that message is creating a beautiful renaissance. You know that moment when you start a game and within minutes you're like, oh, this is going to be good. That feeling is coming back to gaming. Because when developers prove that actually caring about players works, it gives everyone else permission to care again too. When studios see a Black Myth Wukong making $1 billion or Stellar Blade having immediate success on Steam, suddenly the whole industry has to choose. Start actually thinking about your players, or watch the developers who do care about us leave you behind. This success is spreading. More Chinese and Korean studios are feeling confident that caring about players works at a AAA scale, and they're branching out beyond Souls-likes into every corner of gaming. RPGs, horror games, action titles, bringing that same respect for players wherever they go. Just look at what's coming. Tides of Annihilation, which I'm super excited for, Phantom Blade Zero, Blood Message, Crimson Desert, finally launching, hopefully. Project The Perceiver, doing this philosophical storytelling thing. Showa, American Story, tackling alternate history. That feeling is coming through in every trailer, every gameplay reveal. These developers are trying to make something we'll love. And every game we buy is a vote for what kind of industry we want. When we support developers who make games for us, we're funding care over corporate nonsense. And right now, especially, our purchases matter because the developers who get it are fighting for us and fighting to keep that focus alive. Here's what I really believe. This isn't East versus West at all. It's genuine care and passion versus contempt and disrespect. Developers who build with their audience in mind versus studios who've stopped thinking about us entirely. And after all of the chaos that's infected gaming development over the years, I still feel genuinely hopeful. We're proving that our voices and our wallets do make a difference, and that the future of gaming will be written by the developers who value what the players want. The Renaissance is real, and I can't wait to see what comes next. Thank you so much for making it to the end of this video. Are you feeling this shift too? What are some of your favorite games lately? Ones that clearly had a passion and respect for the player. I would love to hear your thoughts because honestly, my backlog is never big enough. Thanks again for being here, and I'll see you in the next one.